Hello, I am Chylli from channel Chylli, also known as Try, and we are back for more Limbus Company. Today we are going to be finishing the new intervallo. Hang on, I need to do something really quickly before we get into this. There we go, now we're ready to get in here. If that's how everyone's been living, then my life, my photographs too. So this is S-Corp 2, right? It is reminiscent of my homeland, but the sights are much too hideous compared to what rests in my memories. Hideous was apt. When we emerged from the entrance of the dungeon into S-Corp streets, what greeted us was a distorted and eerie scenery I wouldn't be surprised to find in an S-Corp themed haunted mansion. It is a place hardly fit for a human habitation, far more dilapidated than once expected. Thou sayest that people inhabited these lands for truth? Really, I think it has a cool vibe. Five's my foot. I don't think I'll be able to get a wink of sleep in here. The lives of the downtrodden were beset by 1,000 woes and tenfold more struggles, and the streets they inhabited reflect that reality. Many times I had contemplated in consternation how the folks here had even the will to live on. The shadow that had begun to haunt Kim's face still lingered there as he looked around. If the distortion reveals the fathoms of those it gazes into, as Kim had said, perhaps this is how S-Corp is reflected in Kim's eyes. On the days when the skies were spotless blue and without orders from the counselor, I would scale to the roof of that choga and feel it rustle beneath my back as I lay upon it. I thought it be a respite solely mine, yet in this mirrored world, another has walked here before my arrival. I joined him in looking up at the thatched roof of the choga. Beneath it, a wicked tunnel have I passed, and now I witness myself before the one who shall strike the head from my torso. There was a figure standing tall next to the building, staring defiantly up toward the man on the straw roof. Mgyeong-yop, are you home? Are you home, I asked. What a strange visitor I have. Why not call at the front gate if you have come seeking the master of the house? Be not like a dog barking up the wrong tree, it's unbecoming. A dog, really now. I can see you up there, lounging on the roof. I'm not going to speak to the door like I'm blind. Has a spell of some sort befallen the day? Does such an odd occurrence transpire twice excessive? The work of a bewitching spirit, I say. What's so bewitching about checking in on someone? Isn't it odd that a high and noble military commissioner of our esteemed corporation would come in person to simply check in on how a lowly mercenary fares? You know me. She certainly knows her Jess. She marches forth, vested in worst rider armor, yet expects no violence. She wields a two-handed great blade like a demonic yaksha, yet harbors no hostile intent. Why, who else might she be but Military Commissioner Yong-Yop, the principal of the famed Im family? You are certainly in the habit of speaking in hyperbole. I'm not so noble that I deserve to be complimented with an epithet so grand as the principal. Not a compliment. You see, Commissioner, this is a rhetorical technique known as backhanded compliment, in which I damn you with praise. For you are so bound by your precious principles that you would rather be unreasonable than betray them. As an officer ranked second ordinate, have no wit to engage in such banter. Why am I out of line, as they say? that you two are friends, right? It was our first meeting, so no, not at that precise moment. I know I'm just saying that if I were Hoy, I wouldn't never let myself become friends with you after such a bad first impression. Can't imagine becoming friends with someone who keeps pushing my buttons. Maybe, but people do find friendship in such personalities if they have a taste for prickliness. You've got a friend in us, don't you? Fine, you have a point, I guess. I do have a habit of pushing people's buttons, too. But still, I hope you're not seriously comparing the way I talk to his sassy, gotcha-digging, pun-riddled. While the world we live in is vast and diverse, consider yourself lucky that you're surrounded by so many quirky characters. It's because of that same luck that she took the joke rather than respond by trying to cut off my head. You are out of line, yes, but I knew you would be, so I won't take issue with it. Though I must admit, the rumors of your sharp tongue do you no justice. The streets speak of a man they call Kim Lib, a man who once had intended to pursue the path of the brush, only to realize the sins of his forefathers and exiled himself to the back streets. Yet with the sheer power of will, gritted teeth, and a scarred heart, did he find in the path of the sword another way into the nest. As the right state counselor, one guarded that. That's you, isn't it? All those superlatives, yet the reality is that I've merely found the path of man-butchery as a viable way of life. Direct any compliments you have toward the right state counselor, if you will. I am but a butchering blade that happened to fall into the right hands. Not a compliment, just the word on the street. You're a quick learner, and spare me the fancy reading of my name. Watching you pretend that pompous posturing comes naturally is painful enough already. Keep it simple and spell it out as Bamboo-Hatted Kim, thank you. And does he continue to veer away from the line? I'd rather be a corpse, cold and dead, than stay in the line. Have a shred of mercy on me, O mighty one. If I'd come all the way here just to punish you for every little misdeed and ill manner, I would have laid you out and split you in 2-3 ways before this riveting dialogue brought us this far. So feel safe to continue traipsing outside the line, but in return, would you answer a few of my questions? I've been watching you from a distance for a while now, and really, stalking someone's not very principled of you. You sure she didn't give you a good wallop after that? No, truly a mystery, isn't it? Besides, she did give me free rein to continue traipsing outside the line. I couldn't in good conscience turn down such an offer of kindness. Not that I ever do. You sure have a way with words, a way of finding your way under the listener's skin. Perhaps, yet such japes not be expected among fellowship of close mutual bond. They don't look like friends yet, though. So care to tell us why she's been watching you? I was engaged in the age-old pastime of throwing rocks. You mean the game of Sukjian. Save them for the festivities of Dano. I was throwing rocks at the passers-by. Fie on thee, that is a wrong deed, good sir. I suppose it is. People of Heo and Saul in particular found it to be distasteful, and they did not let their discontent be hidden. But the P and the downtrodden cheered me on to a degree. They found it cathartic. Curious. Then is it a right deed or a deed not right? Yo, Saul, whatever is it that thou art describing? It is a well-known truth that S-Corp, it is also known by another name. Selpipio Agro Industries, a wing specializing in the general agriculture and livestock industry of the city. The vastness and depth of the responsibilities have necessitated such divisions of labor. Thus, District 19 is split into 3 core circles responsible for different aspects of the industry. Dao, Pi, and Pyo, each meaning flesh, blood, and bone, respectively. Dao responsible for the cultivation of rice and other grains, Pyo responsible for meat and livestock, and Pi in charge of the technological aspects of both. As a scientist and a researcher who once toiled at S-Corp, he must have felt the persecution the Pi faced firsthand. It is believed that the Trinity was designated for balance, that they would provide assistance when requested and keep one another in check when needed. It was once a promise of cultivating a fair and sustainable S-Corp. Alas, the noble intentions of yesteryear now lie sullied, the Trinity now degraded the 3 quarreling bands of profiteers blinded by avarice, relying not on honor but betrayal and perfidy to claim the top of the triangle. An adherent of the flesh claims the position of the chief state counselor and monopolizes rice as the common folk starve. An adherent of the bone, once a rice state counselor, toadies to Sal and rises to the seat of the left state counselor. When such shameless conspiracy permits not the common folk to even till the land as they please, anguished cries of suffering flood the streets. Thus the common folk are reduced to livestock bleeding out, hanging from a hook, while bone and flesh collude, like that of the emaciated dead. Who shall claim the severance of flesh and bone and force them to yield both? An oft-heard poem when walking the streets of S-Corp. And the people whom thou have targeted with thy rocks they weren't people, rats. Rats? Oh yes, the counselor finds rats detestable. Much better to stop them from a distance if you want to crush them. By any chance do these rats have a habit of sneaking into the royal court to better pilfer what the common folk rightly deserve? They certainly suffer from a severe case of kleptomania. So you purposefully threw a rock at his feet to trip him to the ground and knowing he was a kleptocrat. Well, I simply could not help but react as such in the presence of scurrying rats. Is there aught you find funny? Speak if you do. I could use a good laugh about now. Just heartily expressing my gratitude, that is all. Those whose corruption is revealed ought to readily receive their scarlet aura bonds. They gall to scamper away with their expensive prosthetics. My men who are having some trouble apprehending them until now. Well, is that your intent? Well, if that is your intent, you are invited to leave a token of gratitude somewhere in the vicinity. Perhaps I'll happen to pick it up. Wouldn't want to get thrown in the dungeons teeming with real vermin. Oh, I was going to do just that. So when will you stop being a sword and be human again? What? When do you clock out? The way I see it, you're not the kind of person who will ever let a drop of liquor get on his tongue while on duty for the right state counselor. Returning to this Troga when you're human again, I'll buy you a drink as thanks. She's a funny one. Mentor, then this fellow you had often mentioned fondly was... Correct, haven't I mentioned her a few times as a drinking fellow I had left behind in S-Corp? I must say, I found that relationship most intriguing. That a military commissioner of the South faction would fraternize with a bodyguard of the Right State Counselor, who was of the P faction. Still, I knew not that the fellow was none other than a military commissioner of S-Corp. Angie's eyes had gone wide in shock, her voice rising unconsciously. It is news to me that you had ties to a subordinate official, a military officer with command over high-ranking employees of the wing at that. Well, I was in service of the Right State Counselor, who's a first ordinand, you know. Well, that may be true, yet you would like to know why I, such a powerful friend by my side, ended up as an exile from Escort. Yes, your silence over matters of such great import is why I have which is why I have come to introduce you to others as a reticent one, Mentor. We have made the Blade lineage our home, for Escort availed no home to us. For us but the lineage, but you, Mentor. I would rather show than tell. Let us proceed, shall we? This enchanted place seems intent on unearthing all of my past, both savory and unsavory. All shall be revealed in due time. Kim looked around, a twinge of loneliness in his eyes before moving on. He followed without a word. Okay, well, now I'm not too sure about finishing this video. I wish my mouse worked. Damn it, I need to reselect my entire team. That is really annoying.
총은 수지타산에 맞게 한 발에 한 놈씩.
Alright, well, let's see what the combat encounters in here look like.
敵に変化が見られます。
시연합니다.
Looks like we will just be win rating the entire time.
エリートオペレーター並みの腕前です。
감문 확보.
ドクターのように優れた指揮ですね。敵は深手を負っています。
시연합니다.
Honestly, I didn't even notice Bamboo Hatted Kim was here.
サンタさんの作戦、とても効果的でした。
그렇지 않은 것 희한해.
살을 피워.
몰아떨굴 수밖에. 이 순간이 다들어 베어내리라. 베어내서 원망도 옅어지나.
囚人の皆さんの状態に何か変化が。
발검 차단. 낫도 방듯이 숨이 타도록 베어냈군. 단수가 이어졌다니. 몰아떨굴 수밖에. 몰아떨굴 수밖에.
囚人に致命傷を
귀와 요격.
至急対処お願いします。
그냥 잠수. 단수가 이어졌다면
오롯한 검의 길에 한 걸음 더. 살을 피워내고 뼈를 깎는다.
Kind of annoying we got staggered there. I don't really like that.
묘스럽군.
총은 수지 타산에 맞게
I don't think that's
발에
really
한
too
놈씩.
useful for my current team.
무렵에들
소리와 호흡을 멈추고
効果的な攻撃でした。
귀와 요격 함수 정리로와
このまま行けば敵を食い止められます。
순수히 오라를 받으시죠.
サンタさんの作戦とても効果的でした。
낮도 밤도 지나 숨이 닿도록 베어낼 뿐
囚人の皆さんの状態
사월을
に
건다.
何か変化が。
단수가 이어졌다면
뼈를 깎는다. 혈이 낭자.
단수가 이어졌다면
敵は深手を負っています。
시연합니다.
단수가 이어졌다면 몰아떨굴 수밖에 귀와 요격 몰아떨굴 수밖에 배워놓고 원망도 몇 터지나
제 살을 베어내고
쓰러지게
These guys are kind of obnoxious to deal with. They do so much damage to me.
몰아떨굴 수밖에
Oh, well, that is really unfortunate. I kind of wanted something from that.
이 경로는 숨어들기 나쁘지 않군 거래.
No, it can't be. My life is. The experiences, the memories I had recorded are different. Alas, Kim came to a stop with a grim look on his face. Again, I am returned to this day. His voice had dropped to the same morose pitch we had heard before. Mentor, I've been here before. Have you? Had a peek into my memories when I had distorted, did you? I must say, it's a bit embarrassing to have my deepest and darkest secrets revealed like that. Kim grinned sheepishly, as though to clear the air, but it was becoming rather clear to me what he was doing. That his flippant demeanor and seemingly devil-may-care attitude were but a mask to hide the true darkness in his heart. Then this must be, indeed, the Rice State Counselor's estate. Someone whom I had once protected, thought was worth protecting. Kim pushed open the main gate and made his way into the front yard. Watch out, Engdu. Take a tall step over or you might trip. There were bodies splayed about the yard, and I couldn't dare start counting them. I felt faint watching the aftermath of the carnage. Some were decapitated, some had their torsos split diagonally, and some of them were so mangled that I couldn't even tell which parts belonged to who. Are they not retainers of the royal court? What were they doing at the counselor's? No, were they killed by assassins? Assassins did infiltrate the estate, yes. You're looking at what remains of them. Though I had but a moment to glimpse it, I clearly remembered that the escort logo I saw in Kim's Fathoms looked like. The hats these corpses are, or were wearing, are adorned with the same logo. So why is bamboo-hatted Kim calling them assassins? In this corrupt land, the Right State Counselor's life was always as precarious as a candlelight in a tempest. Such is the fate of all those who have the guts to speak the truth in S-Corp, where positions of influence are hoarded by corrupt sycophants whose chokehold on power is ironclad. The most prominent among them, the Left State Counselor, with the Chief State Counselor's blessing, sought to wield his own private army to silence forevermore the tongues of those who would advocate against the corrupt. Private army, but they're prohibited in our homeland. So they're kind of like how the Grey Houses of H-Corp each had their own armies. That is similar to what is happening, but not exactly. If S-Corp circumstances were to be explained in plainer terms, it would be akin to a situation in which a company whose employees outwardly appear to all be working for the same side is in fact fractured within, with certain departments pledging allegiance to a different individual than the chief executives. What assassins there had been in the past at least were masked to hide their allegiance. I had thought this no different, though with assassins significantly less invested in maintaining their disguises, not realizing that I had just placed my stone inside the tiger's maw. Looking around the yard teeming with the assassins, I recall thinking it odd just how many of them they had sent. Though the Left State Counselor's power had grown to loom over that of the king, I should have realized how ridiculous such a brazen attempt on the life of one of the triumvirate counselors at the royal court would have been. Foolish. I have failed you, counselor. There were simply too many of them, as though they had decided that tonight was the night they would finally slay the counselor, or die trying. I was soon overwhelmed, and some of them eventually managed to get around me and reach the counselor's bedchamber. The moment I heard them breach the door, all strength left me and I fell to my knees. I, Kim Lib, am a poor excuse of a bodyguard, and I have failed you. And I knew who the author of the foul scheme was, the Left State Counselor. Let this be my final act of loyalty ere I depart this life. Though I am too meager a person to carry on your will, Counselor, what I can do is plant the seeds of terror in the heart of the unjust, if only to shackle their blackest hearts from committing greater misdeeds. I shall go before the villain who contrived this betrayal and see that the favor is repaid with steel. Only by such vigilance shall the counselor at last close his eyes in the grave. Or so I had thought. What? Greeting, honored bodyguard of the right counselor. I see you've been hard at work. Accursed parasite, I ought to flay you alive and reveal the wretched soul underneath. Some gall you have to show your face here. Oh, here, you mean the home of the Honorable Right State Counselor who toils day and night in service of the royal court. I know the assassins were sent by the Left State Counselor. Get out of my way. I shall collect your head once my task here is over. Alas, alas, this unsightly display of anger shames us all. Are all those who live by the sword as uncouth as you? The cruelty of your damning words is an oppression upon decent men like myself. Let's see how long you can. Heed me, soldiers. Arrest that mad butcher. What? The accursed shall heed his crimes. 1 moon ago, an anonymous letter threatening to take the life of the revered Right State Counselor arrived at the royal court. This audacious contumelious effrontery is an affront not only to the royal court, but to the heavens and men alike. The revered left state councilor, who has long been in disagreement with the right state councilor on matters of the state, found this offense to be so heinous that he has personally commanded his men to protect his political enemy on the day writ on the letter. Yet a tragedy has struck. All those lives sent to protect the noble councilor are slain. The bravery and justice of that honorable heart trampled upon the ground by this villain. And now the villain promises death to yet another pillar of the royal court. Thus we are perforce to arrest the criminal and restore the rule of law. You spout senseless drivel. I saw your men make their way into the councilor's bedchamber with their blades drawn. The councilor, might you be looking for the right state councilor here, alive and well? My lord. The vile wretch leaned down next to my ear and whispered, "Perhaps you should have known where not to stick your nose. Did you really think you could overcome the entire private army in the left state councilor's service? He sent so many of his men to their deaths just to lure me into a trap. Why? Now don't take this as a compliment, as you're not even the apex blade of the homeland, nor you the Ungum. But you've been a rather egregious obstacle in the execution of my plans. Couldn't get through with the first thing in my plan with you constantly getting in my way. Let's keep you nicely locked up and out of trouble. This can be. For what it's worth, young man, I am sorry. I've come to realize the error of my ways. The truth is, though, S-Corp is indeed a pond of turbid water. It was those like us who had stirred the dirt from its bed and turned it cloudy. Fearing the worst, we arrived to protect the revered right state councilor. 1,000 curses upon the villain. In his quest for the right state councilor's life, the butcherous man has already watered the ground of S-Corp's laborers. The very lifeblood that runs in the veins of this most serene wing. And that charcoal-hearted villain is none other than the councilor's sworn guard, Kim Lib. Heed us, O villain. Han Ho Bay. And let the Oron bonds take you. You've fallen far, my friend. You who were once considered a candidate to the honor of Ungam. And with that brand of a Nobi sapping your strength, even your mastery of the blade will only dull. Are you to be my executioner, Gyom-Yop? I haven't received the orders to behead you, if that's what you're asking. Nor would it befit someone of my station to sully my hands with an executioner's duty. How will you live on now? I don't know. The councilor has abandoned me. There's no path forward. Del Pipio Agro Industries is more corrupt than I had thought. Run to the core. This is where the game ends. Time to resign my stone. Indeed it is. Why are you freeing me? Once a game has been lost, you start anew and test other gambits in the next round. Why don't you stop playing this unfair game where the opponent always starts with stones placed on all 9 star points on the board? And find a place where you can begin anew in equal standing. As soon as they realize it was you who freed me, they'll come after you. It's okay. Unlike someone who made a fool of himself and fled after passing the royal examinations, I have the royal court's backing as its military commissioner. My position in the court isn't so fickle they would cast me down right away, just because I let go of someone like you. You're a branded criminal. In the eyes of the royal court, you're as good as inconsequential. I'll report that even if you were to flee, you would still be nothing more than a plaything in the palm of their hands. I didn't think you were the kind to go against your honorable principles. Some things can't be done without bending a rule or two, and you are needed. S-Corp's future is in need of those who are less bound by exceptions, like yourself. Besides, it's not the rules I stand by, it's my own principles. I did say I owe you a token of gratitude, didn't I? Consider this a settlement of that. Gratitude and vengeance, after all, share a common quality. They are both debts to be repaid. Gong Yop, come with me. There's no hope left for S-Corp, you said it yourself, didn't you? We'll never win as long as we're playing their rigged game. Listen, they might have a 9-stone advantage over you, but to me, it's as small as 3. I'll manage and keep my fingers on their pulse. Besides, change doesn't always have to come from the outside. The old wisdom says that to catch a tiger, you must enter its den, but wouldn't it help to have an ally waiting in the tiger's den to help you up when the time comes? There, all done. Your bonds are severed. Go now. Go and build your strength beyond the walls of Ascorp. Yet beware of relying overmuch on foreign powers. I don't have it in me to take up such a grand purpose. I'm done with Ascorp. You know how I am. I just go with the flow. Yes, do as you will. Go with the flow. Be whatever you want to be. But I'm just hoping that the currents of the river will someday bring you back to Ascorp. That's all. Though I had left the rigged game, my records afterwards weren't stellar. The laying of the stones on my board was always full of holes and mistakes. I joined the Blade lineage, became their mentor, dragged them into the library until eventually I cut down those who had placed their faith in me. Self-defeating move after self-defeating move. When Gyeong Yop had let me go, I thought I had escaped to the tiger's maw. But as I let the game progress by the flow, I soon came to the realization that my life was an endless sequence of connect and dies. I was in a losing play from the start. Shadows dancing by the distant humanoid form began to grow like wildfire. And those in the attire of the Blade lineage, one by one, leap over the wall and approach us. Like the projections of Kim's darkening fathoms. They're from his memories. Films and photographs can sometimes remain undoctored, but the impressions a person gets from viewing the photograph is malleable. Then they must be after... Yeah, Kim believes that if the Blade lineage were to come back to life, they would want to kill him.
죄를 새겨주겠소.
This video, I should be able to get to the final boss battle probably, but then we will save the final boss for next video.
보라를 받으시죠.
エリートオペレーター並みの腕前です。
이 순간이 다하도록 베어내리라. 베어내스로.
敵の調子が悪くなっているみたいです。
시연합니다.
단수가 이어졌다니 몰아떨굴 수밖에. 원망도 옅어지나.
조사의 결과요.
囚人の皆さんの状態に何か変
떨굴
化が
수밖에.
Wow, that was really easy. I honestly thought that was going to be a little longer. God damn it, come on.
주제 개시할게요.
Because I'm fairly certain there is also another level after this one, so...
그려낸 대로.
And I figure the final boss battle will also be fairly long.
그렇지 않은 것.
ドクターのように優れた式ですね。
단수가 이어졌다면
敵に対して大きな打撃を与えました。
감로 확보. 이연. 혈이 낭자오.
敵の調子が悪くなっているみたいです。
시연합니다.
단수가 이어졌다면 누구라 떨굴 수밖에. 낮도 밤도 지나 숨이 타도록 베어냈군.
ダンテさんの作戦とても効果的でした。
모릇한 검의 길에 한 걸음 더 가까이.
敵は深手を負っています。
죄를 새겨주겠소.
단수가 이어졌다면 누구라 떨굴 수밖에.
And there we go, now we're at the final boss battle. Anyway, yeah, that is where I am going to end today's video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time when we finish the rest of the Intervalo. Until then, bye!